This is another project I'm going to be working on here. A friend of mine had a pair of 1932 Ford fenders, front fenders. The fenders in decent shape, but they had a couple little spots on them that he wanted repaired. There's a little bit down in the corner there. Along this back edge, there's a little bit of a rusty spot. And a few things like that I want to clean up for him. He wants these fenders to be almost perfect. So we're going to be doing a little bit of metal work today and see if we can't get these things looking real nice. So the spot on the front of this fender had a bunch of pinholes in it, and they weren't really big enough to warrant cutting a piece out. So I went through and used the welder to gently spot in all of the pinholes. Now this is very, very tedious work because after you spot in the pinholes, you grind them down as I'm doing here in the video. And once they're ground down, you need to go back through and shine a flashlight up behind the back to see if there's any more pinholes. And this process takes a while because when there's thin metal and when there's pitted metal, a lot of times pinholes will pop up as you're grinding and as you're welding. So I had to do this process probably weld and then grind and weld and grind back and forth at least 8 to 10 times, maybe a few more, until I got this looking very, very good and cleaned up where I wanted it. After using the grinding wheel, I used a roll-off disc on the angle grinder to finish off and smooth everything out. And the idea here is to just take it down to the base metal and no further, so it blends in. And this is something that I have practiced quite a bit. It's not an easy task doing, but if you can do it correctly, it looks like there's been no repair made at all. And I will actually finish the back side of this as well, because the customer wants these fenders to look like they're brand new. Don't know if you can see it or not, but I'm trying to build that contour there and grind it down without getting too much into the base metal. And for this particular customer, I need to make sure that both sides look like it's never been repaired. So not only does the front side have to be metal finished, but the back side of it does too. So very time intensive. So I want to explain to you the process that I use on this. Basically, I'm just using a small angle grinder like this to clean up all the metal areas. I'm using a hammer and dolly to take out any of the dents. There's a small dent right here. Basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the curved side of the dolly on the back side, find any high spots here and just tap. These are just minor dents right here. I'm going to keep working with that until it's almost perfect. But that's the start of the process. And then afterwards, you want to come through and use between a 50 and a 100 grit disc just to go over the surface of it to knock down any high spots. You're only just trying to be able to see where the highs and lows are. And then after that, I'm going to go back over it with a Scotch-Brite, like a roll-off Scotch-Brite on here, and run back over that to smooth everything out. And then to finish it out and get it ready for the customer, I'm going to use a dual action sander, and I'm going to use a 180 grit pad on here. And basically I'm going to just sand the entire fender with this, just to make it look nice and presentable, to get any surface rust off. That way when he gets that fender, he can take it right to the painter. They can throw some primer on it. It's ready to go.
We will have to make sure these are wrapped up nice so they don't get any moisture on them, because once it's DA'd down like this, rust will form again on it. You can see a couple rust spots here and a couple little spots there that are just starting. That's just surface rust from me touching it with my hands when I moved these in. I've had them in the shop for a little while, but just the oils on your hands will start to surface rust. So the spot down below here, I have already gone through with the grinder disc. I've gone through with the Scotch-Brite disc, so now I'm going to hit it with the 180 and show you guys what it looks like. And that's just going to clean it up nice, make it look nice and presentable for the customer. And it's going to even all that stuff out, and the whole fender will look basically just like this. I don't know if you can see much of the difference between there and there. I'll try to get the camera so you can get a little bit of light on it. So you can see up here that hasn't been sanded and down there that has. It just makes it look a lot cleaner and like it's fresh metal again. So we'll take these fenders that are almost 100 years old and hopefully make them look brand new. So this is the second fender I'm working on. This one is pretty rough on the back edge here. And the inner structure that's on here is all rusted up. So we're going to try to get that apart. And on this one, we are going to actually fab a brand new piece to go in there and try to get that cleaned up. This one doesn't have as much damage on the front side of it, but we're going to start digging into that and see if we can get that apart. So I've gotten the old piece out of here and ground down what was left of the edges of that, and it's going to need some repair on the outer skin. But this was the inner piece that I took out of there. It's in pretty poor shape. I'm just going to completely replace that. So I made another piece here to go in there, and this piece should fit. I actually had to make this top corner. Let's see if I can get it fit in there. I had to make that top corner to fit up here, but that's going to be just like the original. I have to drill a couple holes in it and get those holes to line up with the holes on the outside skin. But I want to get that inner structure in place before I repair the outer structure, so that way nothing is moving. I've got the same length on here. If I cut this piece off now, I'm not going to know where my reference is because I don't have the rest of the car with me. So I got to make sure this fender fits perfectly when he goes to bolt it on. So that's where I'm at the moment. We're going to drill some holes in that and hopefully do some work on that outer skin. So with all the rust cleaned up around this area, we've got this piece clamped in place onto the old piece. I'm going to get that installed, and then we're going to start working on the outside. You can never put too many clamps on it, especially when you're welding. You don't want this thing moving around. You also don't want to warp any of the panels. So if you're welding something like this, take it slow. Do one spot at a time, move around, let it cool. Don't get it too hot because this is sheet metal. It's going to want to warp. So just take it slow and it'll do much, much better. In the middle of this, I may want to move my clamps around. If I get to a spot where it's not clamped quite tight enough that I like it, I'm going to move that clamp down, do a tack, and keep moving around, because I don't want that thing to separate. I want it to be nice and tight and pinched together.
After I finished welding all this up and ground everything down and smoothed it all out, I went back over everything with the DA just to clean everything up on the second fender and get it ready to go. One of the other reasons I run the DA over everything is to find any areas like this. There's actually a small area that had been repaired by somebody else, and I found that, and it doesn't look perfect, and I want to make this absolutely perfect. So I ground it down and smoothed everything out and made sure that it looked really nice for the customer. This is after I had ground it down in the same spot, so that's going to look really, really good. I did go around to the inside and make sure the inside looked real well too. But here's the final product on the back side of it after everything was finished off. I did end up just repairing some of the skin on it in certain spots. I didn't do the entire skin on the back of it like I had thought I was going to, but it cleaned up real nice. You can see here from the video that the back edge looks like it's brand new again. And this is the inside of the back edge with a new piece that we did put in there. And I made sure everything was cleaned up real nice there. So that'll be ready for him to get some primer on, hopefully. This is the finished product on the first one that I did. Let's see if I can zoom up and see that top edge had a whole bunch of pinholes in it. And then I repaired a little bit up at the top here too. It'll focus on it. And I'll show you the outside of it here. So here's the main area of repair on the front side. It's not 100% metal finished, but a very, very light coat of icing or glaze should take care of that. The rest of these fenders are pretty much dent-free. So these should clean up real nice for the customer. Hope he likes them.